YouTube fam, Facebook fam, we made it yet again. And I'm happy to be able to share some time with you. And I'm glad you found a little time to share with me. Something I want to bring up about these YouTube streets. The YouTube streets are a lot like the real streets. As we all know, these YouTube streets are full of foolishness. It is what it is, right? Gossip, beef, treachery in the chat, bullying, people choosing violence. I mean, YouTube violence, but still violence, right? YouTube creators going at each other, cutting each other up, the followers going after each other, just like in the real streets. It just comes with the territory. And it's really nothing to be too surprised about, to be honest. Generally speaking, one thing we don't seem to see too much of is people just mentioning God or talking about God on YouTube. I mean, it is here. And all we have to do is put God in the search bar and some videos will pop up, of course. But it's not popular per se. Again, no surprise here. Talking about God isn't popular in the real world streets either. So we get it. It is what it is. But I think we need to start putting God into, I think we need to do a little bit better about putting God into these various conversations more often. That's probably a minority opinion, right? When you start talking about God, that's one of those things where people seem to kind of automatically start checking out of the conversation. Because for them, it's like, what's God got to do with it? And I get it from a practical perspective. They just want to talk about whatever the issue is to them. Why bring God into it, from their perspective? They don't want to hear what they probably think is all the Bible thumping. Or maybe they just don't see how God has anything to do with the issue. So for example, take just one issue like modern dating and marriage in today's society. People want to talk about this absent God. Women should be doing this. Men should be doing that. All without realizing that God has already established the proper way that the majority used to follow. And when the majority of us, the majority of our society falls away from that, this is the kind of chaos we get in relationships and marriage, among other forms of chaos. And really, more importantly, people miss that there is no getting that back without a return to God. That, unfortunately, is the clear path that we are on in this country. But no, we can't talk about that. We can't talk about what's proper because we're injecting God into the conversation. So instead, we're left with the blind, so to speak, leading the blind in this issue, relationships and marriage, as well as with many, many other issues. So yeah, I do want to talk about God more. There are times when I want to try to show people the relevance of God. God is living. People don't understand what that means. God is relevant. People don't understand how. But generally speaking, God is about as popular to people as broccoli or Brussels sprouts are to the average 6-year-old. People don't want what's healthy. They want cake and ice cream, and they want to wish that was nutritious. So I'm going to be bringing up God over here in my channel. It may not be the most popular thing, right? Guess what? You know what I'm going to say. That's right. I don't care. These YouTube streets are so preoccupied with other things like talking about the bag, chase that bag, get that bag. How big is that bag? Here, let me give you some game on how to get to the bag. That's cool. I hear you. That's cool. Just, I do want you to pay attention. I'm about to give you some game on how to secure the kind of bag that vermin can't get to and thieves can't steal. And some of y'all know what I'm talking about. But before I can bring God into the equation for many people, I have to at least make a case that God is even real in the first place. If I can't even make a case that God is real to someone who thinks God is fiction, then to them, I'm just speaking pure and utter nonsense. Now, to do that, I could easily pull straight from the Bible. You know, the first part of Psalms 14:1 tells us plainly that the fool in his heart says that there is no God. And it's a lot of people don't like that passage for a lot of different reasons. Um, I could go to many passages throughout the Old and New Testament, including powerful ones from Job to the Apostle Paul to Jesus himself to many others. But that, going to the Bible would be self serving to many. They'd rather not consider anything from the Bible as reason to believe. So for them, and I get it, you're going to the Bible is supposedly written by God, but you're going to the Bible. So how can the Bible in and of itself to these people make a strong case for the existence of God? They see it as just a book. So why go there? So for these people, I think that I want to pivot to something else. It's a classic and powerful and very logical and reasonable analogy of the watch and the watchmaker. Now, many people have heard of this, some haven't, but to me, it's profound. And I invite anyone to have a talk with me about it if any part of this is unclear. So, the reasoning of this analogy is simple. It has to do with the simple presence of order in the world. The existence of a simple watch is a good example. Now, some of you Generation Z folks may not have ever actually seen a watch, old school watch. So you might not know what I'm talking about, but I guess you can imagine. A watch is a created, orderly thing. When you encounter one anywhere, you know that someone made it. Its many intricate parts were assembled, and they all work together to create something that functions in an orderly manner. This watch, which is 100% an orderly creation, has a 100% certainty for having been created. It is a 100% impossibility that random circumstance could create that watch. It could not have spontaneously assembled itself. And there is zero chance that any set of random events could have assembled it. That watch, with 100% certainty, has a watchmaker. So, to the person who may feel that God does not exist, I invite you to just look around, look at your world, and take note of the order that you see. The world has foundational laws upon which it operates, laws of physics, laws of mathematics, which serve as the foundation for all existence, from atoms, molecules, and periodic tables to DNA, living cells, and systems of different forms of life. This order I'm talking about cannot have spontaneously created itself, any more than a watch can spontaneously create itself. In the exact same way, with 100% certainty, our world, the entire universe, has a creator. Now, we know that a human being created a watch. When it comes to the creation of the universe or the world as we know it, this is something only possible by what I will refer to, identify as God. To me, if that oak tree is real, if that hummingbird is real, if seasons are real, if the solar system, stars, and galaxies are real, then so is God. Because all of these orderly systems did not originate from disorderly matter and energy spontaneously on their own. So if you don't think that God exists, I most humbly ask you, without judgment, does this reasoning I'm using right now make sense to you, or does it not make sense? Tell me. If you can't tell me how it doesn't make sense, then I invite you to accept the existence of God and then take the next step towards understanding who God is. So yes, YouTube fam, Facebook fam, I will be mentioning God when I think the situation calls for it, because God is real and God is living and God is so relevant, so fundamental, that it is actually folly to leave him so out of the equation as we so easily and often do in our modern society. In a manner of speaking, God is the greatest watchmaker the world has ever seen.